You overslept. You wrote down the wrong date. Your babysitter canceled. Or maybe you knew about court and panicked. Now you're wondering, what actually happens if I miss court? Do police come immediately? Can you go to jail? Will your case automatically be dismissed or automatically get worse? The truth is, missing court can trigger consequences fast, and many people accidentally make things much worse by ignoring it afterward. In this video, we're breaking down what judges usually do when you miss court, the difference between criminal and civil cases, what a bench warrant really means, whether you can fix the situation, and the biggest mistakes people make after failing to appear. Because in many cases, missing court once is recoverable. Ignoring it afterward is what creates the real damage. Welcome back to the channel. We break down legal topics in plain English so you can better understand how the system actually works. And today we're talking about one of the most common and most stressful situations people face in the court system: missing a court date. Let's start with the most important thing first. A lot of people assume that if they miss court, one of two things happens. Either nothing happens at all, or police immediately show up at their door. In reality, what happens usually falls somewhere in the middle. When you fail to appear in court, the judge now has to decide what to do with your case without you being there. And the consequences depend heavily on the type of case, why you missed court, whether this has happened before, and how serious the underlying charges are. But one thing is almost always true: ignoring the missed court date usually makes things worse. The court interprets silence as non-compliance, and once that happens, the system starts moving without you. Let's start with criminal court, because this is where the consequences are usually most serious. If you miss court in a criminal case, the judge will often issue something called a bench warrant. A bench warrant is an order directing law enforcement to bring you back before the court. It's called a bench warrant because it comes directly from the judge's bench, not from police investigating a new crime. And many people misunderstand what this means. It does not necessarily mean officers immediately begin searching for you like in a movie. But it does mean you can be arrested during a traffic stop, arrested at work, arrested at home, or detained any time law enforcement encounters you. In some situations, the judge may also revoke your bond, increase bail, add additional penalties, or charge you with a separate offense called failure to appear. That last part surprises many people. Missing court can sometimes become its own criminal issue. From the court's perspective, the entire system depends on people appearing when ordered. If defendants could simply skip court with no consequences, the process would stop functioning. So judges often view missed appearances as one of two things: irresponsibility or intentional avoidance. And that distinction matters. If the judge believes you intentionally skipped court, consequences tend to become much harsher. But if there's evidence the absence was accidental or unavoidable, courts are sometimes willing to work with you, especially if you act quickly. Timing matters a lot here. If you realize you missed court, the worst thing you can do is nothing. Do not assume the case disappeared, the court forgot, or the warrant hasn't been entered yet. Instead, act quickly. In many situations, the first step is contacting your attorney, the clerk's office, or the court itself. If you have a lawyer, contact them immediately. Do not wait several days, hoping the issue resolves itself. Your attorney may be able to request a new hearing date, explain the emergency, file motions, or help resolve a warrant before you're arrested unexpectedly. And in some jurisdictions, judges are far more forgiving when someone voluntarily addresses the issue, instead of being picked up later by police. What if you didn't know about court? This creates a different situation. Sometimes people truly never receive notice. Maybe the notice went to an old address, mail was lost, paperwork had the wrong date, or someone misunderstood the scheduling information. Courts do recognize that communication errors happen. But here's the important part. You usually still need to address the missed hearing proactively. Even if the failure was not your fault, the court may still issue a warrant automatically until the situation is corrected. That's why updating your address with the court and carefully tracking hearing dates is extremely important. Civil court works differently from criminal court. In civil cases, missing court usually does not result in arrest warrants. Instead, the court may proceed without you, and that can be extremely damaging financially. For example, if you fail to appear in a debt collection case, lawsuit, eviction proceeding, or contract dispute, the other side may win automatically through something called a default judgment. That means the court accepts the other side's claims because no defense was presented, and once a default judgment is entered, consequences can include wage garnishment, bank levies, liens, or eviction orders. So while civil court may not lead to arrest in most situations, ignoring it can still create major long-term problems. Can you fix a missed court date? Sometimes yes, but the longer you wait, the harder it usually becomes. Courts are generally more willing to work with people who act quickly, communicate honestly, provide documentation, and voluntarily return to court. For example, hospital records, proof of emergencies, travel interruptions, or clerical mistakes may help explain the absence. That does not guarantee the judge will excuse it, but it can matter significantly. And importantly, judges often notice attitude. Someone who immediately takes responsibility and tries to correct the issue usually receives a much different response than someone who disappears for months. The single biggest mistake after missing court is avoiding the problem. Some people think, if I stay quiet long enough, maybe nothing will happen. But unresolved warrants and court issues often create consequences later at the worst possible time. People discover warrants when applying for jobs, renewing licenses, crossing borders, being pulled over, or during background checks. And by that point, the situation is often much harder to fix. A small issue today can become a major issue later because of delay. Can you go to jail for missing court? Potentially, yes. But not every missed court appearance leads to immediate jail time. A judge's response depends on the type of case, prior history, seriousness of charges, and whether the absence appears intentional. In some cases, someone may simply receive a new hearing date. In others, the court may order arrest and detention until the next appearance. And repeated failures to appear usually lead to harsher consequences over time. Courts tend to become less flexible after multiple missed hearings. Missing court is serious, but in many situations it's still fixable if addressed quickly and responsibly. The people who tend to face the worst outcomes are often not the people who missed court once. It's the people who ignored the problem afterward. Because once warrants, missed hearings, default judgments, and additional penalties begin stacking up, the situation can escalate fast. If you think you may have missed court or have an active warrant, you should speak directly with a qualified attorney in your area about your specific situation. Every jurisdiction handles these issues differently, and the exact consequences can vary a lot depending on the facts of the case. If you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe to Step by Step Explained for more plain English legal breakdowns covering court, criminal charges, bankruptcy, lawsuits, and how the legal system actually works. And if you've ever wondered what happens after an arrest, during bail, or at your first court appearance, check out the other videos here on the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.